Welcome to the Scully Sez podcast, talking all things law, business, and more. Now here's your host, Tom Scully.
This is Tom Scully, and this is Scully Sez. I almost forgot my name, but it's coming back to me now. It's old age creeping up on me, but it's Scully Sez, and that's the podcast. And I have Patrick here with me, and we'll be talking about certainly nothing inflammatory or nothing controversial, because we don't like to do that type of stuff. And so starting right off, should we talk about the deployment of the National Guard to D.C. and potentially Chicago? What do you think?
Yeah, so I've been reading a lot about it. We briefly touched on it last week, just talking about DC. And, I think I have an interest in, well, not an interesting take. I think I have a somewhat normal take on it. I think what a lot of people think is the crime is a problem. The juvenile re-release and then recommitting crime is a problem. And no one's going to say that they were, if they had could choose from anywhere on the map, that they're choosing to live in urban DC suburbs. No one is choosing that for a reason, right? And same thing with South Chicago, West Chicago. People don't want to go live there if they can avoid it, And so that is a problem that does need to be dealt with. It's also, the flip side is the juxtaposition of soldiers being on streets can sometimes cause more problems than maybe it solves, is a fear you have. It feels like occupation, even though they are Americans and it is an American city. But so I can see the resistance. I can totally see the resistance. I don't necessarily know that it's the best solution, but I also don't really know, if you're a lawmaker and the president's telling you, hey, you have to deal with this crime problem, you have to install some sort of actionable policies here that will make sure that the crime, goes down and people stop recommitting crimes, committing the same crime over and over and over again, carjackings, whatever they are, and, find some sort of way forward peacefully. Otherwise, I'm going to do this. And then they don't do that. And then he does that. I feel like there's a dog and pony show, but underneath it, it is kind of like, it is a problem that needs to be dealt with. I don't presume to know better than anyone else on it,
Well, in D.C., it seems as Mayor Bowser seemed to think that this thing was working relatively well, in that crime was way down. The carjackings were almost non-existent. And as long as the National Guard was on the scene, it seemed as though things were pretty much under control, at least for the time being. You're aware of that? Yep. Well, you can't have that type of thing going too long, And so there was a gentleman, a distinguished gentleman, an attorney, in fact, a Harvard grad, probably a guy who probably lives in Georgetown. You understand? Right. Georgetown, kind of a hoity-toity area where people are able to look down their nose at the average person.
You're basically saying he's a NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's true, and so that's Brian Schwab. And he's the district attorney there, and he's filed a lawsuit. Right. Simply outraged that things are going that way. And, God knows he has some, he's brought up, I know, I forget the name of the statute, posse something or other. It's 100 years old or something. But he's intent on getting these people out of the area so that we can go back to the way things were. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. There? And everything will be fine.
Interestingly enough, they did successfully get a case like that through in San Francisco, ruling that deploying in LA was unlawful, which didn't seem to deter Trump any. He didn't really seem to care. They filed an appeal, actually. But it's interesting. Again, that's another city, right? San Francisco. We've both been to San Francisco many times. You've been there through many different time periods. That's a city that sucks now. I mean, it does. It truly sucks. And I'm not saying that coming from I think sometimes people maybe get the impression that I'm taking the perspective from the areas that I'm in now are different and therefore they suck. No, I walked almost every inch of San Francisco. And it's not like I'm intimately familiar with it, but I've been I've walked through the streets of San Francisco when it was good, and I've been back there since, and it's not. And I don't even want to say good, but when it was better. And like it sucks to be there. It really does. Like it's actually genuinely not a nice place to be. I mean, we went and got a meal at one of the best restaurants in the city, and the place that we parked the car, there was someone actually like using the restroom on the street, like legitimately, you know?
Well, legitimately, it's certainly legitimate to use the sidewalk. I mean,
Hey, whatever, you know.
We spoke of that before, the brown chart, but that's another story indeed. So, but there's a little bit of difference with DC and LA, and the president basically has pretty much a control over DC, which he does not have over LA,
right?
Because it's a federal, it's not a state. So we have that.
Which maybe actually, I did have a question for you because you said this topic earlier in the week, and I didn't really know why DC was a controversial place for him to be enacting that stuff. Because, like, I could understand if you cross into Maryland, you cross into Virginia, you cross into I don't know why I can't think of the other state that it's touching, Delaware. But like, you could cross over there, and yes. I could see why that would be a problem, right? Because it's like those jurisdictions have their own jurisdiction, blah, 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 whatever.
Yes.
But DC, how could there possibly be a problem? They don't even have representatives. Like how is he not the penultimate, authority to some degree? Of course, there's checks and balances, but I don't understand that. Maybe you know better.
No, I don't know better, and I actually tell you the truth, I don't think Mr. Schwab knows any better too. But that's why he had to go back 100 years or whatever, try to come up with this
right.
This what do you call it? This legislation to justify himself. But at any rate, he thinks that it'd be better if we could just go back to just the way things were, don't you see? And
right.
The folks. Well, they interviewed some folks out of Chicago. These were African American people, and these are people on the street. And they asked them what the biggest problem was, and they said they were fearful. And of course, they're fearful because the place is in some places, as Mr. Trump has said, it's a hellhole.
Sure.
Scared to death to get out of your house. The Declaration of Independence, it starts out with it starts out life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the first word, of course, is life. And you don't have life, you got nothing. Right. Forget about liberty, forget about pursuing happiness or anything else, forget about raising your children, forget about having a house, forget about doing anything, because you're not there. And not only are you not there, but you don't want to go out in a frightening way. And so the esteemed mayor, we know who he is. He was up there ranting and raving, indicating that that Chicago was built by slaves, and that was rather controversial because, of course, they basically the population from the South had not moved up to Chicago until maybe the 1900s. But nonetheless, that didn't stop them from saying that.
Right. Well, and just further context for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Chicago at all, the entire damn city burnt down in 1871. So it's kind of a really, really crazy statement to make, but like that current existing Chicago was built by, largely European immigrants, the people who lived there up until the late 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, that's true. But Brandon, he does not allow facts to get in the way, you see.
Right.
But then, of course, then we had the esteemed governor, Mr. Pritzker. And he got up there and he said not to worry. He was perfectly content, and he thought that everything was fine there, and that there was really no problem at all, and that by God, if Trump tried to send anybody in, he would be mad as hell. And
well, because I mean, his neighborhood is so great, you know. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about any of those problems. And what really is his use to ever go to the west or the south side other than to make a political appearance? He doesn't ever have to go there, let alone the 850,000, 1 million people from Indiana who have to drive through there, maybe have to stop, get gas there, maybe have to whatever. All those people who experience that, doesn't matter about them. But if you only go north and you only go to the suburbs that you're supposed to go to, yeah, Chicago's great. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. It's, but like you said, people walk outside, people who live in 69th, people walk outside of their house and it's genuinely a coin flip as to how the day is going to go as far as life. And like you said, it's the first thing: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Liberty and pursuit of happiness, that's out the door because you're worried about life when you open your eyes in the morning. That's insane.
Yeah. And in fact, if you're how much liberty do you have if you're afraid to leave your house?
Absolutely.
And then and bad things will happen to you anyway once you do leave your house if you're not careful. Anyway, and then of course, not to be outdone, but there's a gentleman by the name of Raja Krishnamurthy, and he's trying to get legislation passed in Illinois that would prevent Trump from sending in any National Guard because, of course, he aligns with Mr. Pritzker and Brandon that everything there is fine. So if we can just get some kind of legislation set up, we'll be in good shape, you see. And
right.
And that's what we have. That's what we have going there. So that's what we have. I was looking at the dangerous. The cities. All the cities in the country are pretty dangerous. You know that,
of course.
And so I was looking at one of the cities. Of course, is that they consider to be somewhat dangerous. It's not too far from you. It's a place called Dayton. Have you heard of Dayton? Yeah. Dayton, Ohio. Yeah. But they say the most dangerous, of course, going down the list that I've seen is Memphis. Yeah. And of course, you got Cleveland.
Yep.
And you got Little Rock. And you've got Detroit, St. Louis, New Orleans, Baltimore, Kansas City, Milwaukee, Oakland. Louisville. And so, you know what they all have in common, don't you?
What's that?
The leadership.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Things are bad and they're getting worse, but not to worry. And so that's
Memphis is an excellent case study in it too, because 20 years ago, maybe not 20 years ago, maybe like 30, 35, 40 years ago ish, Memphis was definitely not a place where this type of violence was at least the prevalent the way that it is now. Now Memphis is a total gun city. Everything you heard about the South Side of Chicago in 2008, 9, 12, up to 12, all of that era of South Side Chicago where there was 350, 400, murders in a year. Memphis has now reclaimed that. And what's really troubling about it, I talked about it a little bit last week, but that is a thing that is conscious in the residents of the bad residents, the people who are there in bad faith. That is something that they're thinking of when they're committing these crimes, is they want to put numbers on the board. There's a scoreboard, and it's like, oh well, look, Memphis is way more active than Chicago or whatever is the attitude that there is. And listen, there's no winning. Like one of my best friends when I lived in the city of Chicago was Kevin, who was a post office worker. He worked in 875 North Michigan Avenue, which is Hancock.
Yeah.
And he worked in the bottom there at the post office. Super cool guy. And he lived in the South Side, and he would talk about all the time, like, man, I just can't stand this shit I can't stand this stuff. I can't stand what's going on. How am I supposed to navigate my life? How am I supposed to be a normal, good citizen that's building his community when people are destroying my community behind my back while I'm at work,
Yes.
And, but no one cares about him because it's not about caring about the residents of the city. It's about making a political point a lot of the time, Yes.
Well, I was going to go back to your point about Memphis. I I don't know. I know you like music, but I don't know. This might have been a little bit before your time. But there was a guy by the name of Mark Cohen, and
Okay.
Mark Cohen had a great song. It was called "Walking in Memphis." You see, now that has been changed somewhat. It's no longer walking in Memphis. It's running like hell in Memphis. You see, yeah, yeah. You better be making. You better be making some tracks.
Yeah, locking your doors and driving
Oh yeah,
through Memphis
yeah.
is the new song.
Oh yeah, yeah. Things change. You see how that goes?
Yeah. It is crazy. It really is.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. Well, there's only one thing good about running in Memphis. At least you're not doing it in San Francisco.
Right, because then there's road hazards.
That's also correct, sir. Yeah. So yeah. So that's what we've got there. This is this is a serious podcast. So we're trying to keep it on a higher level, but these things will.
Once in a while, it gets you.
Yes, it will. Yeah. So let's see. So what else do you have to say about the deployment? Do you think it's what's your take on it?
Well, so I think it's interesting because I've said for a long time, like all my friends from Ohio always ask like, oh, what do you think about Chicago this past year? And I'm not the authority on Chicago, but when you're around people who've never been there, it quickly becomes that way. And so people ask you all these questions, whatever. And I've always kind of said like, it's a concentrated area. We've never really dealt with too much. If you go to like State Street or you're going to the Loop or you're going to anything, whatever. But there is definite issues. I mean, there's definitely you have exposure to crime, even if you're a total do-gooder citizen there that you probably wouldn't have in other Midwestern cities. So I think that something needs to be done. And I don't think that the local law enforcement has shown any, I don't know if it's ability or if they're on a leash or if they really, for some delusional way, really don't think it's that big of a problem what goes on in the South Side. But they just obviously have been very hands off with what's going on. I mean, unsolved murders, the people running, juveniles who steal 4 or 5 cars and are still doing it, and all this. There's some concerted effort to allow this chaos to continue to go. And so I understand where President Trump comes from, where he says, you know what, this is a simple solution to this. If you have a guy with a giant gun, bigger than the bad guys' guns on every street corner, the bad guys are going to be scared to go outside. The unintended consequences of it is maybe the people who have low faith in the government also feel that way, and also feel like now these do-gooding citizens feel like, wow, now I have a military occupied neighborhood for what? But I do think that a large portion of these people probably are sitting here like, if you remove the political lines, something needs to happen. There can't be a constant factory of gang members just killing each other and churning out more and killing each other and churning out more, because it is a cyclical problem. I mean, the way this all starts is way, 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 way back. The 2 main gangs in Chicago were friendly, and they were like part of the same gang. And then 2 brothers or a cousin and a cousin, split. One of them killed another one that met someone else. And so it goes. And now it's just a stack of bodies and a stack of evidence as to why you hate the other side and why they hate you. And you're never going to solve this problem by just locking up one guy or locking up another guy. You have to set the precedent that this is unacceptable. And if you continue to behave and conduct yourself in this way, there's going to be like super dire consequences. So to button it all up, I think that something needs to happen. If the Illinois legislation and government is not willing to make it happen, which everything I have articles all pulled up over here from different sources. I have CNN, Wall Street, BBC, NBC, and government statistics. They don't care. It doesn't seem like there's any concerted effort to deal with those type of things. They would much rather just like host Lollapalooza every year and act like it's fine. But you notice when they host Lollapalooza, there's huge police presence everywhere. I digress. Point being, they don't care is the feeling I get from Illinois and Chicago politicians. And I don't think Trump cares either. I think this is a political move for sure. But at least something's changing. At least maybe there might be fear in the bad guys' hearts to be bad, and I don't want to co-sign it necessarily, but I'm definitely not condemning it either, because Pritzker is a, POS. Pritzker is, I'm not a fan at all. I mean, this is a guy in a literal ivory tower ruling over people that he genuinely sees as beneath him because he's, he didn't earn that money. He's been there for a long time, and he just like acts like human life and safety in the city, and then just being able to go outside and enjoy your own city is not that big of a deal. Who cares? So I think something needs to be done, and I don't know if this is the best way, but I mean, at least someone's doing something.
Yeah, I think Mr. Pritzker, his background has been that he has a similar background to Bernie. I don't think he's had. I don't think he's had a job until he was well into his 30s or 40s, and I think he did something with the military museum. That was his thing, the Pritzker Museum.
Yeah.
God forbid, I don't think he ever got anywhere near the military, and if he did, I'm sure that he would flunk the physical because you see where we're going with that one, don't you?
Oh yeah,
that's a 4 effort for sure. Yeah. But I believe he's losing weight now. He's losing weight. He's walking along the lakeshore, and I believe he was asked whether or not this was a result of Ozempic, but of course he wouldn't comment on that.
And remember, he's walking along the lakeshore, but up in Skokie and Evanston.
Oh yes, well
he's not walking the lakeshore. He's not, probably doesn't even cross south of Ohio Street. Let's be honest.
Yes. Well, he doesn't going to go anywhere near Ohio Street because there's a possibility that they need somebody to. They need an extra person to be work on one of these volleyball games. You see it, so they might. That just wouldn't work out. So
it just wouldn't be good for him.
Stays away from that. So all right. So we've got that. We've got that buttoned up, and I think crime is. We've got crime is on the rise, but nonetheless, we all feel somewhat. I feel somewhat safe, but of course, I'm nowhere near Chicago. Don't you see?
Yeah, and that's the tough part. I actually, so a lot of the people that work at my store are, politically disagree with me, which I kind of like, honestly. I prefer to hear people who disagree with me all day, and it helps me learn how to debate my point better, helps me understand the other side better. So I like it. But one of the things that we always agree on is, it's not like when we're talking about like crime, or we're talking about immigration, or we're talking about anything like that, all of these people have the same ideals as you or I, where they want to make America a better place to be. It's just these weird little lines where we like disagree and stuff like that. And so when we're looking at a situation like this, where all of these people, all of these kids would never go to, they're so terrified. Like I went and one of my kids bought a car on Monday. And so we went into like a not great area of Dayton to go buy the car. If anyone knows, it's Edwin C. Moses Boulevard. If anyone knows that, we were over there. So anyways, so it's not a great area. Definitely bad stuff happens there pretty frequently, but it's broad day. It's whatever. We go pull up. I'm in my nice car, so it's whatever. It's not my first choice, but life goes on. And we go and we pick up this kid's car, and we're talking to the guys. The guy's a perfectly amicable dude. Everyone we talk to on the street, also, nice, great, whatever. And this kid was terrified, though. Like, he was genuinely, looking around everywhere, all nervous, all this, whatever. But this would be like one of those very, very left-leaning kids. And I don't think that there's no problem with being compassionate about people who have less than you, but also being like having wherewithal when you're in those areas and understanding what can happen. But I think some of the problem is that because they're not allowed to talk in certain ways, and they're not allowed to like express displeasure with like a group, like an area of their city, because that would be considered like admonishing those with less than you, they never get to the point where they're developing these problems. And that's part of or understanding these problems. That's part of what I try and explain to them is like, there's places in Chicago that legitimately I'm not parking my car here. Like, I'm not going to leave my car here. There's a 0% chance. And I'm not going to go, and if I have to get gas, I will risk it and go another 5 miles into the city, and like trying to explain that type of stuff to them is an interesting, battle, because you're battling with someone who has no frame of reference. And so then that's kind of like what my problem is when we get to like a guy like Pritzker, or a guy who lives in Georgetown talking about DC problems. It's like, listen, I'm not acting like every conservative is also out here experiencing the world for what it is, regardless of what area they're in. But I think that generally speaking, you're as, you know, an educated liberal, you're oftentimes talking to someone who's a working class Republican who does interact with people and does go to different areas of their city and does actually, you know, experience all the good and the bad. And you're talking about all this theory and all of this, like what it should be and everything like that. And you're not looking at the actuality of the situation. I think that's why you get a guy like Pritzker who can just, I mean, he like they're talking about, they had to postpone Latin American, like Mexican independence. They're
Yes.
postponing Mexican independence, two of them independence things. And like, this is a problem for me, right? Because it's fine, you know, but postpone them, celebrate Mexican heritage. It's all great. It's all great. We've been to many an Irish fest. It's totally fine. But when you know that when ICE is coming into town, and you know that a large portion of the people that go in there are going to be illegal immigrants,
Yes.
you can't act like it's like some crazy injustice that's being done to you, that the immigration control is coming into a city where they know there's going to be a bunch of people who are not legal immigrants. That's just strategy. And you can be upset about it, you can be whatever, but you're not living in reality to think that ICE wouldn't show up at a Mexican independence festival when their stated goal right now is to get as many illegals out of the country as possible. You can disagree with that, that's fine. But to act like it's like morally bereft is the thing that I'm talking about, where they're just not living in the reality of what these cities are like for people who are law-abiding normal citizens, regardless of the color of their skin.
Yes. Well, you know, there's also an old saying. They talk about the four freedoms. One of the freedoms is freedom from fear, and I think that a lot of these folks, they live in fear. They on a daily basis, and not only do they live in fear, but they're used to it. It's their way of life. So I think I told you before. I think we had that conversation where I went to this woman's house, and she was on the second floor, and she doesn't live on the first floor. And that's I didn't realize it, but that's not an uncommon thing in the hood.
Right.
You do not live on the first floor, because you get a drive-by and you get shot. And there are articles in the paper all the time about some little kid who's on the first floor sleeping in their bed or whatever, and gets shot and gets killed. And you know, so, but it's a way of life for many of these people. There are even in their own home, they're not safe, even though they have the doors locked, even though they have bars on the window. They're hiding on the second floor, and that's the way they live. And it's almost like being in jail. You're on the second floor hiding, and you go out of your house only at certain times of the day, probably early in the morning, and certainly when it's light out. But once it becomes dark, you stay in the house. And so, and you know, it's a frightening situation. And I think it's the most important thing that the government is supposed to be doing is protecting you.
Right.
Forget all this other crap about the keeping the place up, or doing having all kinds of programs going on, or paying you a certain amount of money for certain things, which is all good in and of itself. But their main job is to protect you, and they're doing a pretty sad job of that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, I can look at it from the perspective of like Dayton, even like this city could not suck. It's you know, place where funk kind of was born, and it's the place where the Wright brothers flew, and it's got a massive Air Force base like smack dab in the center of the city. Like, this is a pretty cool city. There's some pretty cool history here. There's some, I mean, we're imperative in the development of American cars. We're really important for trains. We're important for canal work. We've had a lot of different things that have made this city or made contributions to the rest of the country coming out of the city and even the world. But you can't do that when you go downtown and you park your car outside and you go into a nice dinner and the windows smash when you come out, almost guaranteed that someone's going to break into your car. And like, you know, I don't think mugging and all that stuff is necessarily a problem. I don't travel in bad areas because frankly, like I have no business over there. I have no reason to be over there. So I'm just not going to go over there. But like when I am in there previously, like, there's a little bit of whatever eyes on you that maybe feel like they're not necessarily the nicest thing. But if it's the Midwest. Even the most dangerous people in the Midwest, generally speaking, if you don't know them from a can of paint, you could say, hey, they say, hey, life goes on. It's not like some, war zone, but it's all of the little things that stack up to make it be like, well, I'll never live there. You could buy an 8-bedroom, 3,500 square foot house in certain suburbs in Dayton, and you could get it for, $150,000 because no one wants to live there. No one wants to be there. No one wants to be in that area. And then you don't punish the criminals in those areas because you're trying to, I have no idea why there's no punishment for juveniles and no punishment for a lot of these criminals that like snatch and grabs and all that stuff. I have no clue what the possible political vehicle is for that, but it feels super sinister because basically if you allow people to rob enough of the Walmarts, then Walmart's just going to be like, well, we're losing money here. So we'll just close that store and we'll go to another neighborhood. And if you really love Walmart, you can drive to Walmart. And if you really love Whole Foods, you can drive to Whole Foods. But they're not going to be here anymore. And people talk about these dead zones in neighborhoods without talking about why the dead zones exist. The dead zones exist because in 2020, someone came in and caused $170,000 of property damage to Target, and you were told that it was their right as a protester. That's what happens. And then it never comes back. It would never, I can tell you right now, if someone came and stormed into my building, smashed all the windows, I would close up shop. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to rebuild. I'm not going to do it all over again. I'll go move to a neighborhood where someone appreciates me. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to allow that to be something like, I'm not going to just like sit there and be your punching bag. And honestly, most other business owners don't have the luxury to do that. But like the ones who do will leave. And when they leave, they're gone. They're never coming back.
Yep.
You've lost an entire generation of people who built the town that you live in because you allowed people to steal from Walgreens. And it's like, if you could have just cracked down on Walgreens, you could have just cracked down on the carjacking, the guy who stole his 5th Kia this month, you wouldn't have these problems. But you're never gonna yell at anyone for doing the thing that makes the area unlivable. You're never going to punish them. There's never going to be any sort of recourse. So why wouldn't I just be a terrible person if I lived there? Why wouldn't I just be the guy who does whatever they want and doesn't care? What's the whole point?
You almost have to be.
Right.
Because you're either the hunter or the hunted. And if you have to choose between them, and you become the hunter. That's the only way you survive, particularly if you're a young kid growing up in a bad neighborhood. You're either going to be victimized or you're going to rise to the occasion. And usually rising to the occasion is not by following the rules, but by doing exactly what you're not supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I can't tell you how many times in Columbus we would see. I've seen it in real time happen. Columbus was like a relatively super safe city for the most part, and I watched it go from being a pretty safe city to being now like a city where people like, there's drive-bys at night. There's people shooting in like the nice areas of the city. Like whatever. I picked up a shell off the ground when I was going to like the tier beneath a Michelin starred restaurant, like a really, really fantastic, wonderful restaurant in our town. And there's shell. There was a casing, a bullet casing. So it had been fired. It had been ejected from a gun, was on the ground. It's like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? How is that ever allowed? And I'm not even saying like, oh, well, it's fine when it's in the bad areas, but when it bleeds over into the other areas, now it's a problem. It's not okay anywhere. It's not okay anywhere. And you just never punish them. They'll never, ever feel punished, so they'll never stop. I've watched I've seen people steal the Kias. Like, I've seen the Kia things happen. I've watched people break into someone's car and steal them. And then I also know I've seen someone who is a 4-time offender, not with my own eyes, but this is a news story, 4-time offender. And then the 5th time he steals a Kia, he kills an innocent woman and her kid. And now he's going to get in trouble. But guess what? Instead of them putting him in jail for like 2 years or something and being like, you do not steal cars. Now you've lost the rest of your high school experience. You're going to have to do it behind bars. Now he's going to jail for life. He might be put to death. It's okay. Like, I guess that was better for him. I don't know what the catch and release crap is about,
No, I agree with you. And I think that the problem is that we do not have consequences, and we should have consequences. And as a result, people feel free to do whatever the heck they want, which is, I think we talked about a little bit earlier. That's the difference between liberty and license. Just do whatever the hell you feel like, and if it makes you feel good, you do it. So, but that impacts the rest of us. And so anyway, so we've cleaned up DC, we've cleaned up Chicago, and all these other high crime areas throughout the country. I think we've got the solution well in hand. What else do you think? Do you think there's anything else that we have to let the citizenry know about before we sign off?
Well, I have a couple little updates on some stuff we've talked in previous weeks. We talked about that Tesla case that they got awarded $250 million because of
Yes.
the autopilot crashing into the guy.
Yes.
Now this really inflamed me when I read it, but I've since calmed down. But they obtained data and said, the car saw the hazard 170 feet ahead, as far as 170 feet ahead. First off, traveling at 86 miles an hour, 170 feet. I'm not going to do the math. I'm not a physics professor. Anyone else can do it. It's not a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time to react. 170 feet, 80 miles an hour. No, sorry. Doesn't matter. Don't care if your computer. It's crazy. Number two, so we're saying, I just need to get this clear. As American people, we're saying that Tesla, one of their individual of the millions of cars they make, is responsible for the deaths of the people who the car hit, and not the guy in the car who should be brought to criminal charges and should go to prison. Not him. No. It's the Tesla that's the problem. Does that make it easier to get recourse when I crash my Tesla into someone and maybe accidentally kill them? Does that help them? Is that better for them? Now they get to go sue Tesla, who's going to build a whole department around it, have all the best lawyers in the world. Is that better for them? Or is it better to just hold the individual guy who has an insurance company behind him accountable? I just don't know. But I can tell you that when Tesla goes and appeals this and then eventually wins it because it's a total farce of a case, there's never gonna be any culpability ever again for anything that Tesla does, which is also a problem. And so, you just keep, they love to throw crap and see what sticks. That's not going to stick. That's going to be a huge problem. And if it, God forbid, it does stick, then they'll just take away autonomous driving completely, or take away the steering wheel. If you have if me and you don't, it doesn't matter when we're driving a car, I can just put my car on autopilot and do whatever I want. Then hell, I just take the steering wheel away. And then how far down the rabbit hole do we go? What if someone shoots out of a Tesla when it's moving? Should the Tesla have noticed that he was shooting and diverted course?
Well, this guy,
how that works?
The guy who was driving, does he say he has insurance? Did he have insurance?
Yeah, he had insurance because the car was financed, so he still had to have insurance.
All right. Well, I can't imagine he doesn't have as much insurance or doesn't have as deep a pocket as Tesla.
For sure.
And so we want to go with the guy that's got the bucks, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what they call the deep pockets. And so
the problem is, though, you're a lawyer, so you obviously know this, but if they set the if Tesla goes and wins the appeal and sets the precedent back to we're not culpable for any of this, then it was just wasted time, money, and everything for people whose family and members have been dead since 2021. You know what I mean? I hate this, we act like it's for morality or something, like we're holding them accountable or whatever, but it's you're screwing the person who lost the life, though. They aren't getting any solution anytime soon because now it's a multinational, multi-billion, probably trillion-dollar company that they're fighting against instead of one dude, who the court of law can find guilty and raise a judgment against him. I mean, he's not going to be able to endlessly appeal, but guess who will? Tesla. And so that's my thing with that. So that's a huge problem. It's just a really, really, really huge problem.
Yes. Well, and I also, this is just a speculation on my part, but I'm sure that Tesla was agreeable to settling this thing out of court with this
Absolutely.
But that didn't happen. So, but that again, you see, we're talking about accountability, and so whatever. So we got the Tesla thing out now. Was there anything else that we were supposed to be talking about that we've forgotten about?
There's nothing huge. I mean, I think that one thing that we have never said on the podcast, but that we should always say is one of the things is all of this stuff is true. All the stuff's important. All the stuff's real, but none of this should dictate your emotions on a 24-hour cycle. None of this should dictate your actions. None of it should run through someone's mind and just drive them insane. That's how you got those crazy anti-Trumpers and the crazy Trumpers. You got these people whose lives became consumed with politics and became consumed with it. And those people literally went insane. I mean, they actually, I have one who lives in a Trump guy who lives in my neighborhood. Everyone around here is a Trump, fine with Trump at the worst. They're fine with Trump,
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in my area, it's a very red area. This guy's got Trump flags everywhere. Everyone makes fun of this guy. Make fun. He's got the photo of the assassination hung on a big flag, whatever. I mean, we're talking 30, 40 signs and flags. No one likes these guys. No one likes these people who are all consumed with it. So, take in what you can of it, impart your own opinion a little bit, and create an actual worldview that isn't just through the lens of Republican or Democrat. And you're going to find out that most people in the world agree with your very moderate takes. And it might be boring because it's moderate, but it's the truth. And the more people that we have that all agree that we need to develop certain elements of America, we need to regain certain freedoms that we have in America, the better we're going to be as a country. But it shouldn't be something that's just a sports team argument, which is what it's gotten to a lot of the time. Sometimes you can just have a different opinion and it's like, oh, well, you disagree with me. That's okay. We'll see which one works out, or hopefully mine prevails, but I respect yours. That's the way that it needs to be. People shouldn't be fully consumed with it. You can talk politics for an hour every Friday and move on with your life after that point and do what you can to make the world a little bit of a better place. And that's what you should do.
Are you telling me that the truth will set me free?
Some have said.
Yes, not only that, but then in response, you laugh at me.
I'm laughing with you.
Oh yes, I get the vibe now. Yes. Well, I think this has been very illuminative. I think that's a word. But whatever, it's enlightening. Enlightening, and this has been a very tough podcast, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because I've got a runny nose, you see, and not only do I have a runny nose, but this guy, he's been dabbing at his nose as well. You see, allergies. This is rough over here in the Great Midwest. You see, and God knows what's flying around in the region, and I showed everybody my region rat thing in the background. You see that again, and that fellow. I didn't figure out. I did a little research as the region rat. I couldn't figure out what the region rat was all about. And the region is the Calumet region. You know that it's and the Calumet region. I guess really the Calumet region might be Whiting, East Chicago, Hammond, and Gary. And then there's some of us that are a little bit further south. We try to pretend that we're region rats, but we're kind of hangers on. And I mentioned Hammond as well, didn't I?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how they come up with the region, the Calumet region. Now, the rat, how do we come up with the rat? My understanding is that the steel mills in this area used to be they used to call these folks mill rats. Those are the people that worked in the mill, and almost everybody in the region worked in the mill. You see, so They were rats, and they were in the region. So that's how we come up with the region rats. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's why I got the thing on the back, and trying to pretend I'm a region rat where I'm actually a transplant. But they have been hanging around this place for 50 or 60 years, so I think I got a right to say something about the place. Anyway, anything else, or are we signing off?
I got nothing else. I mean, I could talk forever, but nothing that's gonna make any substance for these guys.
Oh yeah, well, nobody said no. There's nothing in the contract here, nothing in your employment contract that says you have to say something of substance.
That's true.
Yeah. And on that note, we're going to leave it. So And don't forget to give us a thumbs up on Scully Sez podcast. Tell your friends, your neighbors. Maybe instead of that Trump banner that's out in front of your house, you put out a banner that says Scully Sez, and that will be a great thing to do, and there'll be a great celebration throughout the region. And on that note, I'll leave you.
Yes, like, subscribe, share.
Good.
And if you dislike it,
Yep.
it's your problem.
Silence. Silence is golden.